And just like that, people, Tabitha is right back where she started. And so soon too. I mean, who was expecting this to happen so quickly? We're only on episode 3. So you already know that this means we have a whole lot more to talk about, including what this might mean for Victor's sister and where she might be now. Plus, this episode just revealed a huge detail about the way Fromland works that we've never known about before until now. So be sure to stick around so I can tell you guys what I think this truly means and my theories about it. So just like always, we pick back up right where we left off with Jim answering the phone call from Thomas, which I've already revealed that I think this is definitely not Thomas, since we basically know that Thomas was a baby when he died, and more than likely wasn't even talking yet. Anything's possible here, of course, in Fromland, but that's my take on that. But anyway, Evil Thomas starts asking Jim, why did you let Mom go? Why did you want her to die? And was it because you didn't love her anymore?
Why did you let Mommy go? Why did you want her to die? Is it because you didn't love her anymore?
Just talking all kinds of shit, trying to get under his skin, and starts telling Jim how he just wants to help. And of course, in this moment, I'm just thinking like, yeah, help him get killed. But of course, Jim is stupid enough to where he probably will take the bait. So Evil Thomas tells Jim that he should be watching Julie and Ethan right now because they shouldn't be outside so close to dark. Just all threatening and shit. So Jim drops the phone and takes off. Then we cut to Boyd outside ringing that take your ass in the house bell, and he sees Jim aggressively telling Julie and Ethan to get inside. And he asks Jim if he's okay, because it's like, why are you being so aggressive? And this is where Jim looks at him and goes, things are getting worse around here, aren't they? And Boyd just looks at him like, what the hell just happened to you? But of course, once again, staying true to those good old From roots, Jim doesn't tell Boyd about how he just talked to his dead son on the phone. Then we cut back to the real world with Tabitha and Henry, where Tabitha is recapping the story to Henry again about going through a tree, trying to save the children and the boy in white in the tower and the blah 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 blah. While going over all of this, Tabitha hears the bottle chimes, which Henry does reveal how there's a tree in the backyard that Miranda used to call the bottle tree. Back in the town, we see Victor using a map that he made to go dig up something. But before we get to see what it is, we end up cutting away. But we do find out later that it was an old suitcase. Then we cut over to the station where Boyd and Ellis are discussing how they could possibly use a talisman to trap a monster inside of something, which a lot of us have been suggesting something like this since like the first season. And once again, props to the creators for finally beginning to implement more of the fan suggestions little by little. We appreciate it. While discussing this, Ellis is kind of being a little pussy, like he's not down to give this a try. And honestly, Ellis might be taking Kenny's role this season, because Kenny's been trying to boss up lately after all his trauma, so that's very possible. Unfortunately though, before we get to hear more about this plan, Donna interrupts them to let Boyd know that Kenny, Christy, Dell, Jade, and some others are heading to get more food from that village, and how they should be there by lunchtime. At this time, Boyd and Ellis reveal the plan to Donna that Boyd is planning to catch one. Of course, Donna isn't feeling the plan, but also, like always, she doesn't have a better one, so whatever, Donna. I like Donna, but she's always too afraid to try anything new. She's always shooting down plans and never has a better one to suggest, so yeah. I think they definitely need to catch one alive and see what they can possibly learn from them. And the only one that's ever really held a conversation with one of them like that we know of was Kevin's crazy ass from season 1 episode 7 when he caused the whole Colony House massacre thing, and well, we already know what happened to Kevin.
You are the only one that I want to be with. You are the only one that I can really talk to.
Back at Colony House, Clara offers Fatima some food, but she's not feeling that freshly cooked stuff and decides that it's a better idea to go outside and eat some of those good old rotten ass veggies. And she honestly doesn't look like she's too proud of herself to be doing this, but she's looking around like she doesn't want to be seen, but she's also not trying to hide. So what the hell, Fatima? Are you embarrassed by what you're doing or not? I mean, I know you're not thinking clearly right now, but if you're looking around like you don't want to be seen, why are you eating it out in the open? And because she's not trying to hide it, we see Tilly outside in the background hanging up some clothes, and she spots Fatima going to work on that outdoor all-you-can-eat buffet of rotten shit. Then we cut out in the woods where we see Kenny and the others heading to the village. And once they get there, they all observe the totem figures, and Jade points out how they're all positioned like they're used the same way they use the talismans. And my guess is that the village is abandoned because the totems didn't work that well at keeping the monsters away. Then back with Jim and the kids, Ethan starts talking crazy about what if Tabitha's body is out somewhere rotting, just saying crazy kid shit. And after this pisses him off and causes Ethan to storm out, the phone rings, but Jim hangs it up because we already know who's calling. More than likely Mr. Evil Thomas. So back at Henry's place, we find out that Miranda was an artist. Then Tabitha further explains how faraway trees look to him, and tells him that that isn't one of them, because of course it isn't. But he goes on to tell Tabitha how that isn't the original tree and how the one in their yard is just a replica, and how his wife Miranda did installations all over the place. So I'm thinking that basically Miranda was more than likely the one to install the bottles in Frumland. Or maybe because of her vision, she also drew inspiration to put up bottles on trees in the real world, just like she was also inspired to make those Frumland paintings of things that she saw. But the only answer that we don't get while Henry informs Tabitha about Miranda's bottle trees is why did she do it in the first place besides just being an artist? It would have been nice to know where the inspiration really came from for the bottle trees, but of course we don't get that revealed right now. I personally think understanding her reasoning behind doing this would definitely offer us some more details into what's going on, but of course, like I've already mentioned, we don't get that information right now. He also tells Tabitha that the original tree is only about a 30 or 40 minute drive away, and she tells him that they need to get their ass over there ASAP. During this time, we cut back to Boyd in town as we see him building a monster cage. At this time, Subconscious Khatri pops up and starts telling Boyd how building the trap is a stupid idea. But Boyd ain't trying to hear that, because I agree that we can't stop trying new things, you know? So he basically tells Subconscious Khatri to fuck off. Back in town at Sarah's place, Victor pops up because he wants to build a fort and tell her a story. I mean, you gotta love Victor. Then we cut to Colony House where Tilly is trying to console Fatima by telling her how she used to lick eggshells. But Tilly, I gotta say, what's going on with Fatima is some pretty wicked shit. I mean, it's way worse than that. So I'm glad you added that part about getting those eggshells that you were licking out of the garbage, because that's way more relatable. Back with Tabitha and Henry as they jump in the car to go to the original bottle tree that Miranda made in the park. A tape that's stuck in Henry's car starts playing, and apparently, this is Miranda's favorite song. Funny enough, the same song is also Tabitha and Jim's song. How about that? Then back in Frumland at the village, Dell is bitching as usual, this time about Jade not helping to pack vegetables, which I guess is a fair complaint. Well, that's until Jade responds and tells him to F off. During this time, Jade goes for a walk to blow off some steam and take a piss, and he ends up coming across 3 weird stones that are painted red at the top, where he also finds some strange looking guy, that same strange looking guy from the trailer, with his damn head nailed to a tree. In this moment, the man suddenly grabs Jade and he's struggling to get away. But then Dale walks up and we find out that the guy once again is just one of Jade's many visions. Now, one thing I would like to point out about this scene is that we've seen someone else previously nailed to a tree like this. I mean, not with the nail in their eye, but head nailed to tree.
Hey, what's happening? Christy, what?
And that was Kelly from the bus back in season 2. And my theory is that since Jade had this vision near the village and the stones, maybe whatever Jim and Kenny heard walking around in the village last episode wasn't actually a town monster, but maybe a different type of creature altogether. I mean, we constantly keep getting these hints, right, about how there's something much worse out in the woods. And I think Jade's vision here of the man nailed to the tree is another hint about whatever this much worse thing out in the woods is. Back at the village, Kenny and Christy are still gathering food. Well, Kenny is, and Christy is trying to check on him. I mean, finally, this season they got Kenny bossing up. And he's like, it's nice that you're checking on me and all, but you need to be doing that while you're doing your fucking job. And although Kenny is going through a lot right now, I was proud of him. During this time, Jade and Dale return to the village, and Jade tells Kenny and Christy that he's getting the hell out of there and he's going back to town. They try to tell Jade how he won't make it back to town before sundown, but he's like, well, shit, I'll probably make it if I run, so he takes off into the woods. But Christy is trying to stop him because apparently he's running in the wrong direction. And while trying to talk Jade down, Christy steps into a bear trap. And what pissed me off the most about this scene is that Kenny ran up and asked Jade, what did he do? Like it's his damn fault that Christy walked into the bear trap, which it kinda is, and I get the anger, but hey, Jade is my boy, so hey, watch it, Kenny. Anyway, while they struggle to free Christy, back in town, Boyd swings by the diner where he finds Bacta and Ethan cleaning the dishes as sort of like a tribute to Mrs. Lou, because they knew she always liked to keep the pots and everything clean. Boyd tries to provide some encouraging words to Bacta and Ethan about how they can still make it home, but it's obvious at this point that Ethan is just over this kind of shit, and if the force actually does feed on hope, then it definitely ate all of Ethan's hope, because the kid ain't really hopeful about anything anymore. Then we cut back to Christy and the others for a brief second while they're basically still struggling to get her out of the bear trap. But Jade seems to have a bright idea, and he takes Dale with him so they can find something to free Christy. And I just wanted to say that I'm pretty sure that the bear trap is out there in the first place for the same reason why there was already a garden planted at the village. It's obvious that the people who lived there before was growing food and catching wild animals out in the forest. The biggest question here that we all should be asking is, what happened to the people who lived here? I don't think it was the town's monsters who got a hold of them. I honestly think it was something much worse, but that's my take. Back at Colony House, Tilly tells Fatima that her tarot cards can tell them whether or not if her baby is okay. Fatima struggles with the idea at first, but eventually she humors Tilly with the cards. Tilly reveals to Fatima that the tarot cards told her about her cancer and also warned her about the town. So she tells Christy to ask the cards a question and they'll answer. And Fatima ends up asking if her baby is okay. And before Tilly has a chance to flip over any of the cards, a crow flies into the window. And when Tilly tries to finally flip over the cards again to get an answer, the crow crashes through the window and dies after smashing into a wall. And although Fatima never gets her reading, at least we don't get to see it, I'm pretty sure that this was the sign that she was looking for. She's just not gonna notice it. Back in the woods, Jade and Dale break one of the totems to get a metal rod to free Christy. After they free her, the same guy from earlier with the missing eye walks up and drinks from a skull in front of Jade. And what the hell could this possibly mean? I have no clue. But the guy is drinking a skull filled with blood. And what happened to Christy is that she just shed blood on those village grounds. And also Jade broke one of the totems. This could possibly lead to something evil following them back to the town after the events that just occurred here. Back in town, we check in on Randall, and it seems that he is still seeing the cicadas. So that means although Boyd freed them, what happened to Randall, Julie, and Marielle is all still attached to them in some way. And it could honestly be because they're still in the town. And it also kind of makes you think, how much worse is this going to get for them since it's not really over? But during this time, Boyd walks on the bus and tells Randall that they can switch places for the night because he would like to stay on the bus and watch the monsters, and he presumably fills Randall in on his plan. Back in the real world with Tabitha and Henry, Tabitha finds the same bracelet that Jim lost at the hospital inside of Henry's glove compartment. So after Tabitha finds the bracelet, she starts to lose it and even asked Henry, are they even really in Maine? And he's like, what? Then she begins to panic and thinks that Henry is even in on it and just really wants to get out of the car and leave. He tries his best to talk her into staying in the vehicle because they're just right around the corner from the tree. So after giving that a shot, Henry then tries to force Tabitha to stay inside the car to get to the tree. But as he pulls off, they end up getting into a car crash. Now Tabitha's reaction might seem like an overreaction if you're not familiar with the history of the bracelet or you don't remember how significant that moment is to her. And I'll show you guys a few clips here, but the bracelet was made using Jim's shoelaces.
Mom?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Remember you lost it at the hospital the night Julie was born. Look at this.
Huh?
This was an accident. I made this.
She even made a mistake while making the bracelet, which makes it even more of a unique item. And this is technically the second time this bracelet has traveled around. Jim lost it at the hospital, then it ended up at the diner, and now it's in Henry's car. And apparently this was the one that Miranda made for him. Alright, so I have two possible theories about what is probably going on here. Tabitha is like a version of Miranda, and Ethan is like a version of Victor, and I'm assuming that Julie might be a version of Eloise, and Henry could possibly be a version of Jim. Now at the moment, Jim to Henry and Julie to Eloise's connections seem like much more of a stretch, unlike Victor and his mother Miranda, who have much closer connections to Tabitha and Ethan. Now I did have a weird theory that it's possible that they might not be all from the same realities, but then that theory sort of gets debunked by the missing posters and the fact that Tabitha was able to pull up the missing people over the internet from town and show them to Henry in the real world, proving that they are all missing from the same place. Which now brings me to my next theory, which is whoever or whatever the things are that are in control of the From universe orchestrated the connections between families, and that's why similar women like Miranda and now Tabitha and the ones that came before them end up there, just like the connections between Victor and now Ethan. It's either the children that bring them there or the malevolent force or beings that are in control of that universe. I could honestly go on for quite a while longer and expand upon this theory, but I think that's enough to let you guys know where my mind is about this. But I will say one last thing. I think my conclusion is that all the bracelets that Tabitha is seeing isn't her bracelet. The bracelet that she lost at the hospital is lost. The version that she found in the diner belonged to another person. And now the bracelet that Miranda made for Henry is also a separate bracelet. These are just bracelets that belong to the same type of women that are being sent to Fromland to try to save the kids. But anyway, after the car crash, Tabitha and Henry are in an ambulance on their way to the hospital. But unfortunately, they never make it there because they end up back at the tree in the road. And now Tabitha's back, baby. She's back. That freedom out in the real world was definitely short-lived. And then that's where the episode ends. So just like I promised at the beginning of this video, I'll let you guys know what the huge detail was that this episode just revealed and what this might mean now for Victor's sister, Eloise. So Tabitha now ending back in the town means that it might be impossible to escape from land until the people who are brought there succeed at whatever they were sent there to do. And I think that this might mean that Victor's sister Eloise could possibly still be in Fromland somewhere, lost since the discovery of the village. Or it's possible that she took the faraway tree somewhere and she could be being held captive until she's found. I mean, think about old man Martin from the beginning of season 2. He told Boyd that he went through one of the trees and that's how he ended up there. He kept saying they're coming and how they had him held captive, but we still never got to see who they are. And I'm willing to bet that something similar also happened to Eloise. Either way, I think it's pretty clear that Eloise never returned to the real world, because if she did, Henry would have mentioned her. But that was one hell of an episode, I must say. So you guys already know to make sure and leave your thoughts down below and let me know what you thought about this week's episode. And until next time, as always, thank you guys for watching.